It took 3 months and a phone bill that would kill a cow, but at the end of that 3rd month, which just happened to coincide with the end of the year Liz had originally given herself to make good with her art, not only had Liz sold enough paintings to cushion herself for a while, but she had acquired an enthusiastic agent, or whatever you call them in the art world. She was scheduled for her first local showing, and she had been commissioned with a fair amount of dollars up front to do a small mural in a private office building. Liz got the message and is now very careful as to how she flows her energy. In truth, I'm not sure which of us was more elated at the turnaround. Our cherished problems. Liz was just doing what we all do, running around like a chicken with its head cut off as she tried to fix all the circumstances of the moment that scared her. Like a drowning person struggling against the lifeguard, the more frightened and hopeless she felt, the harder she fought with negative energy to find ways to remedy her situation. She was looking at the mess she was in, her disastrous conditions, finding them not to her liking, and frantically wondering how to change them through normal, physical means. And the more she tried to fix, the more negative energy she flowed and the worse things got. Everywhere she looked from within the dark hole she thought was her reality, she saw nothing but gloom. We've all been there. When things get rough, we either brood about it or hastily plot for ways to execute damage control. Fix it, improve it, rectify it. Is there one among us who hasn't mused, if I could just get from here to there, everything would be fine? We are fix-it mongers, dutifully trained to respond to whatever conditions are in our face. But fixing is resisting our natural energy. Fixing is a closed valve. Fixing is whopping negative energy. The challenge is to take our focus off the object of our anxieties or irritations, and find the happier feeling of what we want in its place. In other words, we need to stop fixing, and start feeling good. Let's say, for instance, your roof is old and needs to be replaced, but you don't have the money to do it right now. However, it's the rainy season, so the problem is somewhat pressing. You're also having major problems with the car, and the IRS is dunning you for back taxes. You've got a batch of nasty conditions on your hands, none of which are going to make you feel particularly sunny as you think about them. But think about them you do. And think about them. And think about them. So of course they get bigger. All of those negative conditions, known more endearingly as problems, are nothing but irksome don't wants, but they are so common to us and such a part of our world, we take them for granted as part of life. In fact, we wear them as honored badges of identity, a sort of one-upmanship in the sorry game of who can be the biggest victim. And naturally, the more we stew about them, or brag about them, the bigger they become. Some negative conditions are serious problems, others simply minor annoyances, yet whatever they may be, they are so prevalent, so all-pervasive that we've made them a way of life. However, negative conditions are nothing more than the result of our own past focus, and feelings, and energy flow. That's all they are. Our negative energy flow was the cause, and the unpleasant conditions are the effect. There is only one way to stop the messes in our lives from getting worse: stop focusing on them. If we can accept, from the depths of our being, that our problems are not caused by our boss, our mate, our raucous kids, the IRS, or the drunk on the freeway, then we have a chance to wipe those problems away in the same way we attracted them, by our energy flow. Only this time, through a significantly different vibration. I'm not going to pull any punches, this is tricky. Staring at, and responding to, what's in our face is what we do. To change that means we would have to give up our cherished right to have, and agonize over, our precious problems. Well, fear not. As long as we are physical, we will always be faced with conditions we neither like nor want, otherwise we'd be living in Saneville. So there will always be plenty of problems around for you to focus on if you should want to cut loose on occasion and flood yourself with negative energy, as I frankly enjoy doing from time to time. But our goal now is to change the way we react to our unwanted conditions so they cease being the focal point of our lives. Never face reality. Because of our upbringing, and because of attitudes passed down over countless generations, we believe that what we see in the moment, and what we are experiencing in the moment, is the way it has to be until we either find a way to eradicate or accept it. We can see it, we're surely experiencing it, so in our book that makes it reality. And yet reality, real reality, is nothing more than the result of how we've been flowing our energy. Let's say, for instance, you're living in a body you don't much like. You call that reality, which equates to that which is unchangeable and must be accepted. Or let's say you're currently living in a declining economy which is affecting your income. You call that reality, a potentially disastrous condition over which you have no control. That's life, accept it. That's the way things are. You can't fight City Hall. Stop knocking your head against a brick wall. That's the way of the world. Learn to take life on its terms. Within every life a little rain must fall. Get your head out of the clouds. Life isn't fair. Wise up and face reality. Here's the flash, we do not have to face up to or put up with anything. All we have to do is learn to flow our energy differently, for nothing affects our experience except how we flow our energy. Nothing. With some things in our lives, those that are pleasing to us, our valve is naturally open. Because those conditions gratify us, our positive energy is attracting more positive things. But as we look at the majority of negative conditions, problems, around us, our valve is slammed shut. Our connection to our source energy is barely enough to keep us breathing, and we wouldn't know a vibration of joy if it walked up and smacked us in the face. We're annoyed at this, steamed at that, worried about them, wondering how to correct this, complaining about that, afraid of God knows what all, depressed over everything, and vibrating such unceasing currents of negative energy all the time. It's a wonder we ever have any moments of joy at all. Just because you're living in the reality of a jobless market does not mean you can't attract a great job. Just because houses are not selling does not mean you can't attract a qualified, delighted buyer. Just because your body is not as strong as others does not mean you can't attract the strength to win the 400-meter race. Just because you've never worked in that market does not mean you can't attract the ability to be successful at it. Just because you've never been able to stop smoking does not mean you can't attract the willingness to stop right now. Just because you've had 2 divorces does not mean you're doomed to attract another catastrophe. Whatever mess, or happiness, we are living in this very moment, whether it be as an individual, a family, a nation, or a planet, that mess is the sole and direct outcome of how we were feeling, and flowing energy, yesterday, and the day before that, and the years before that. The law of attraction doesn't work a little here and a little there. It simply is, for you, for me, for the cosmos. We magnetically attract what we vibrate, and we have created it all, from fender benders to global wars. So, from this moment on, never, ever accept reality as something to which you must resign yourself. Take your thoughts beyond whatever is in front of your nose that you don't like and put them on what you do like. If you don't, your so-called reality will never change. Granted, some ugly things may be glaring you in the face right now, or threatening you, or looking like a hopeless situation, but they are not set in stone. They must never be reluctantly tolerated. Unpleasant reality is nothing but an effect caused by negative energy flow. We can either live with those effects and suffer, or circumvent them and have a ball. Tricks to switching focus. As a kid, did you ever jump off a high dive? Do you remember that very first time you climbed up, and up, and up? Each step seemed to take you farther away from safety, but even though you were scared, you kept on going. Finally came the top of the ladder. You walked tentatively out to the end of the board. Your heart pounded so hard you could barely hear the kids below shouting you on. The water seemed 5 miles away. You didn't really want to do this thing, while at the same time you did. Something in you knew this was epic, the greatest moment you would ever know, that if you did this, you would never be the same. You jumped. What a rush. You made it. And indeed, your life had changed forever. The toughest part of ungluing ourselves from the high dive habit of an ongoing problem, for that's all problems are habits, is forcing ourselves to release our preoccupation with it. Like so. You don't have to change it. You just have to stop focusing on it. Is it tough? Yes. Can it be done? You bet. But you have to start someplace, and that someplace is a decision that, somehow, you're going to change your focus. Then comes actually doing it, changing your focus to something more pleasant so you can change your energy. It is impossible to solve a problem in the same frequency in which it was created, so you make a decision that for as long as it's with you, that problem will no longer be the focal point of your life. Like having a cut on your finger. You know it's there, and yes, it hurts when you think about it, but you don't allow it to govern your everyday living. You believe it will heal and go away, and so it does. Just remember, the most important part to changing an unwanted condition is simply, you don't have to change it. You just have to stop thinking about it. All it takes is that willingness to jump. Trick number 1, switch focus. Now, the moment you recognize you're focusing on the condition with your worry motor running, or ticked off motor, or blame motor, etc., find something else, anything else to think about that will get you to feeling even a tiny bit better than you do at present. And find it right now. Switch your thoughts to your mate, if you've got a great relationship, your home, a song, your doggy, your new sweatshirt, a chocolate sundae, making love, your upcoming vacation, your last vacation, a special restaurant, your youngster asleep. Anything. Make yourself do this, staying there until you can feel your mood begin to change, which means your energy has changed, no matter how slight. Once you make the feeling switch, then start talking, out loud, about what it is you want, that's want, not don't want, in place of your unwanted condition. By doing that, your focus is now off the condition, your intent motor is running in its place, and you've gotten your valve open enough to begin the turnaround. And for heaven's sake, never mind that your replacement want may seem impossible. Just get into it and forget the how tos. If you can't get into your want, intent feeling mode, never mind. Just stay in the feeling of some pleasant new focus for as long as you can. The longer, and more often, you can stay in that higher frequency, the quicker your unwanted condition will begin to dissipate. Conversely, the more you retain your focus on whatever has been bothering you, the longer it will stay around. Trick number 2, tend to talk it out. Now, when you just can't seem to get your focus off the condition, start some soothing talking to yourself, out loud, much like a loving mom or dad might comfort a little one. Tell yourself all the comforting things a youngster would want to hear, that it's going to be okay, that things are in the process of changing, that you've always been safe and always will be, that you have nothing to fear. Keep talking warmly for as long as it takes you to feel that subtle little switch happen, and you can feel your resistance to the higher energies backing down. You are relaxing into well-being, your resistance to that life-giving source energy is lessening, and you're quieting down. Stay there as long as you can, with your focus off the disturbing condition. Trick number 3, tough talk it out. Now, this is tough love kind of talk, out loud, to yourself, one-on-one. But here's the trick, you need to get tough, not down on yourself. Don't you ever get down on yourself when you find you're focusing on an unwanted condition. What you're after here is stern, horse sense reasoning where you firmly point out to yourself what will transpire if you continue to focus on, and stew over, the condition. Then you tell yourself quite matter-of-factly what will happen when you remove your focus and change your vibration. Now look, Charlie, you got yourself into this mess, and you are going to find a way to get yourself out. But if you're going to stay in this mood and stew about it all day long, you know the situation is going to get worse. So get off your pity pot and find some dumb thing to feel good about. Hell yes, I know you don't feel like feeling good right now, but who cares if you believe it or not? Fake it until you feel the switch in feeling take place, that subtle shift in your energy. This is an approach of hard logic. While I use it regularly and it always makes me feel better, I find I usually have to jump from this back into one of the other tricks to get more of that quieted down feel-good motor running full steam. But that's just me. Whatever it takes for you, go for it. Trick number 4, do something fun. Now, get physical. Go for a walk, polish your car, brush your cat, buy a new suit, bake a cake, play poker, trim your flowers, go to a movie. Whatever turns you on, that will take your stuck focus off the condition and soften your resistance to flowing that higher energy. Once you feel the shift happen, start talking out loud, gently at first, about what you want in place of the unwanted condition. With any of these tricks, keep in mind that old expression, fake it till you make it. You switch focus, you talk warmly, you talk tough, you go for fun, you pretend, but the point is, you do it the moment you realize your attention is on the unwanted condition, and you stay there until you feel your feelings flip over. They will. Conditions don't mean a thing. Once you've taken your focus off the condition and started to get that rusty valve cracked open, you're ready to really crank up your want and get excited about it. The shift in focus is away from the unpleasant now, onto the pleasant want. Away from the unpleasant now, onto the pleasant want. If all you can muster at first is just a scrap of feel good about your want, then fine. When you get to having your valve open 20% of the time from focusing on your want, then celebrate. You are headed in the right direction, which sure beats vibrating 100% of the time about a lousy, what is. Slowly by slowly, as my Hungarian friend used to say, that big chunk of energy that created the condition in the first place is being displaced and replaced by open valve source energy vibrations. Pretty soon you'll be able to vibrate at somewhere around 50-50, 50% on the condition and 50% on something more pleasant. Now you're truly beginning to take control of your life. Sprinklings of your desired changes will start popping up everywhere. But the real fun comes when you get to the point of switching energies at the drop of a hat the instant you realize you're tuned to negative. Now you've jumped up to 60-40, 60% with higher frequencies, 40% on normal, and finally up to 70-30, or even 80-20. At this point, right before your eyes, you'll watch new events, new people, new circumstances pour into your life as if by magic, one right after the other, to create the new occurrences you so deeply desire. Not too bad for simply feeling good. Just remember, however fast your want comes is directly related to how fast, and how permanently, you can switch your focus off what is keeping you in a negative vibration, and on where you want to go. No matter how dire your condition may seem at the moment, it is not permanently glued to you. You just have to decide what you want in place of your problem, then provide the feel-good frequency that will give it birth. And please, don't beat up on yourself if you've got a barrel full of problems, and don't try to tackle them all at once by attempting to project an assortment of unbelievable wants. We all got ourselves into our various messes, and with some serious practice at taking control of our energy flow, we can all get ourselves out of them. Guaranteed. Insist to yourself that you will do whatever you can to find, and maintain, any amount of feel-good energy. And remember, the only power present conditions have over any of us is the power we give them. That's when we feel trapped, and quite frankly, we are. But no circumstances are beyond our control. What's going on in your world at this very moment doesn't mean a thing. It is only a result, that's all it is. No matter how unyielding conditions appear to be, you can always feel good, even feel better, energy around them to change them. If you can know that in the deepest part of your being, the rest of this deliberate creation business will be a breeze. The hi-ho silver syndrome. It's taken me longer than I care to think about to own up to the realization that it's not what I do that makes a difference in my life, but how I'm flowing my energy. I had always been a deep believer in action being the magic word, that nothing would come to me without great effort and exertion. The truth is that whatever it is we're wanting to fix, all the desperate things we think about doing will have precious little effect on influencing our experience. Nor does it matter how we do what we do, or how much, or how often, since most of our doing is initiated out of negative, flap-around energy rather than inspired, breeze-along activity. Give us a situation we don't like, and, depending on our nature, we do one of two things. We throw up our hands in frustrated resignation, bowing down to accept our fate, or we leap on our big white horse, as the Lone Ranger used to do, and gallop blindfolded, rather than masked, down the trail bellowing, hi-ho silver, A way to frantically search for some heroic action to overcome the dastardly injustice befallen us. Either way, all we're doing is blowing up bigger what we'd like to blow out of our reality. So let's take a look at this action business. I call it frantic action, the hi-ho silver syndrome, the need to do in order to fix. It's any type of activity we take with a closed valve. Most of the world will agree that it's only through doing that all things happen. Give us a problem, and we hi-ho silver into frantic action, looking for ways to sell more, earn more, accomplish more to fix it. Yet deliberate creating is about flowing energy to attract, not about trying to push rivers upstream, which is hi-ho silvering. Hi-ho silvering never works. You just can't muscle into anyone else's world unless you've been vibrationally invited, any more than anyone can intrude on your world unless you've sent out the vibrational invitation. You cannot bulldoze something into place and get the results you truly want, no matter how hard you push and shove. Does this mean we stop doing? Of course not. We just substitute inspired doing for wasted doing by stopping our constant knee-jerk responses to everything. Then, with our focus held enthusiastically on what we prefer in life, the right moves to make come to us from a place of open valve inspiration. Action becomes a joy instead of a have to. Ideas abound. We open to the creative life force and find ourselves being led step by step, easily and flawlessly, to wherever it is we wish to go. The miracle has happened. We are no longer responders, we have become deliberate creators. Bless em all. Let's face it, we're always going to have contrast, meaning things we don't like. That's what we signed up for, and frankly, that's what we most enjoy. But whether it's Godzilla coming around the corner or a flea bite, no matter how bad or irksome the conditions may appear, they deserve no more of our attention than enough to warn us how we're flowing our energy. That's all. They are not the end of the line. When a feeling alarm rings in response to a condition, and you get that knee-jerk response to hi-ho silver into frantic action, just cool down and relax. That changes the thought, which changes the feeling, which changes the vibration and allows the universe and your expanded self to take over. And so, contrary to popular belief, you do not have to get all your ducks in a row before allowing yourself to feel good. The only thing you have to do in regard to any condition is to stop looking at the full thing, stop responding, and find a way to feel better. Habits of a lifetime, and eons of inherited genes, die hard. Just do your best to remember that whatever you're currently living is only the result of past energy flow. Then take a quiet step back from the immediacy of the situation to catch a glimpse of that broader view. Remember that needing something to change will always flow negative energy and hold it to you. Finding a way to become excited about what it will be changing into will flow positive energy and get the desired revision started. Stop being uptight over anything. Instead, tell yourself in all gentleness that however unpleasant the conditions may seem to you now, they are not going to control you, and that yes, you absolutely can find a way to open your valve in spite of what's happening. And you will. Then your answers will come, opportunities will come, and you'll soon find more ways to alter your situation than you can imagine. So bless the rotten conditions if you can, for without them you could not possibly know what you don't want. Cast your gaze to what can be rather than what is, and dive into all the wonderful feelings, not longings, of how fantastic it will be when you're there. Then, what is there, comes here. Chapter 6. Ye gads, I'm feeling wonder, preciousness, appreciation, gratitude, excitement, reverence, awe. Can you pull up those different feelings anytime you want? Can you turn on wonder at the drop of a hat, or excitement, and I don't mean sex? Or how about reverence? Can you look at anything, even a rock, and instantly make yourself feel a warm sensation of respect toward that inanimate object? Turning on has usually meant getting ready to jump somebody's bones, but that's not what we're talking about here. Our new kind of turning on is a conscious, intentional flipping of our inner switch to a higher frequency to get us vibrating at a faster speed, like right now. Anytime we remember to do it, every time we remember to do it, all the time. as often as possible, every hour on the hour, or every time you pass a red car, stray dog, or mom and baby. Whenever. I'm not kidding. If we don't learn how to get our frequencies up there and out of here, we don't stand a bloody chance in hell of becoming deliberate creators. Which means, unhappily, that we will forever remain creators by default. Which means, victims. Since changing frequencies 101 was never an offered course in school, it becomes a skill we have to learn on our own. But with a few more tricks of the trade under our belts, it can happen easily. Whoosh. I first started fiddling around with energy flow about a year before finding the teachings on the law of attraction. I didn't have the foggiest idea what I was doing, but it was fun and passed the time as I was driving. The home refinance market was in full swing, and as a mortgage broker I was right in the middle of it with my own one-person business which I ran from my home. So as requests came in from folks to refinance their houses, I'd go to them rather than the usual routine of having them come to me. It was fun that way. I got out of the house, did errands at the same time, and saw parts of my town I never knew existed. To pass the time as I was driving around to appointments, I started playing with my energy. I already knew how to switch rapidly into an intense feel-good mode, a kicky little thing to do I called running my energy. I'd just inflate a vigorous feeling of up, and in almost no time my body was buzzing in response to the altered frequency. I also knew if I folded a desire into those high feelings, think about it while I was up, it would stand a good chance of coming about. But that's all I knew. Frequencies, vibrations, negative, positive energy flow, the law of attraction, I had only a casual understanding of these things. The more I fooled around with running my energy, the more I was beginning to see this rather intriguing phenomenon that would occur just as I started to feel high, or buzz, as I called it. Right in the pit of my stomach, that place where you lose your breath when you're socked, there was this whoosh. Feeling as if I was zooming down a roller coaster at breakneck speed. Sometimes it lasted for only a split second, but other times, if I concentrated with extreme care, I could prolong it for several minutes. Then I realized this whoosh was the same kind of yipes feeling you get if you have to swerve abruptly to avoid hitting another car. Or the kind I felt many years ago at the precise moment my boss told me I was fired. Whoosh, right in the pit of my stomach. At first I didn't know what to make of it or how to link it all together. Here were vastly different situations eliciting a broad spectrum of equally powerful reactions, yet they all seemed to end up physically in the same place, my gut. Then it dawned on me. Our emotions register first in our adrenal glands, which is why, when we're startled or frightened, we experience that rush in the pit of our stomach, or solar plexus, where the adrenals are located. When fear hits us, the adrenals are socked with a sudden burst of electromagnetic energy causing the immediate release of adrenal secretion which we experience as whoosh. So why wouldn't the adrenals respond in the same manner to an intense energy manufactured from joy? Energy is energy, after all, no matter what has moved it around. Whether we feel a rush of extreme panic, or a rush of sublime joy, the energy floods through the solar plexus, stimulating our adrenals and registering as a highly noticeable, physical sensation, whoosh. I was thoroughly intrigued and started to experiment even more. Sure enough, I found I could control how intense my feel-good vibrations were by how much whoosh I had in the pit of my stomach, and vice versa. I could control the intensity and duration of whoosh by however much feel-good vibration I could generate. It was fantastic. Not much whoosh meant not much feel good, and not much intensity, so not much change vibrationally from where I had been. But a big whoosh, or rush in my solar plexus meant I was really turned on vibrationally to some kind of elevated feeling, excitement, delight, deep appreciation, or whatever. It meant I was flying high without chemicals, and it proved itself every time. The rush never came without my turning on some form of joy. And I never, ever had the rush, or buzz, as long as I was just flat-lining, which is feeling neither good nor bad, but just plotzing along. I was so excited with all of this, I thought I had discovered the secret of life. Perhaps I had, but only in part. I still didn't know about directing the energy, or about focusing on wants or don't wants. All I knew then was that the more I pushed to feel good into a bodily buzz, the more I was attracting my desires. It was a great start, but oh, brother, how I wish I'd known the rest of the story. In the beginning, I was like Mickey Mouse in the Disney movie Fantasia, playing with his boss's magic hat without knowing its powers. I was getting so good at manufacturing up feelings into a whoosh. I could turn it on in a wink, even while listening to tasteless newscasts about somebody's sweet grandmother being raped. Whoosh. Would come that feeling in my stomach as I turned on the joy, followed in moments by a sort of soft bubbly feeling, or buzzing, all over my body. The more I buzzed, the more business I'd get, so I'd buzz even more. It was magic. The money was flowing in so fast, I actually stopped counting. Running my energy became such a routine pastime, I could almost forecast how much business would come in by the intensity and frequency of my buzzing. While I was correct in my understanding that the high frequencies I was originating were magnetizing my desires, I mistakenly thought that was all there was to it. No problem, just get my frequencies up there, run my energy, and the world is my oyster. Not quite. What I didn't know then was that even the slightest shift of my focus to anything that was unpleasant would not only pull in the undesired consequences of that negative focus, but would instantly cast a barrier between me and incoming goodies, including money. That little lesson was soon to come. For several months, though, there was not a negative condition anywhere for me to observe. What was terrific. Everywhere I turned, it was as if it were my time. There was a ripe and ready market which I knew I could tap with ease. The little flyers I inserted into the newspaper were so effective, my phone would ring with loan appointments for weeks afterward. No matter where I looked, things were extraordinarily positive, and of course, so were my vibrations. My energy level was off the charts, my social life was thriving, and my ancient wardrobe sprouted anew from carefree shopping sprees, all while my business boomed. And before the year was out, I had even launched a new enterprise totally separate from the mortgage business. I just kept unconsciously observing the good stuff all around me, running my energy and pulling in more. How good could it get? Then things started to go haywire. The market changed and so did my focus along with it. As interest rates began to rise, business began to dry up. Now all my attention was going to, no, don't let the rates go up. Don't let the market dry up. Don't let this gravy train crash. If someone had said to me then that, what is only the platform from which you launch your next creation, I would have punched their lights out. I was really worried, so of course the problem kept getting worse. Because I had been so preoccupied with the bad turn of events, I had long since stopped buzzing. Instead, I had shifted my focus completely to what I didn't want, the market to get any worse, rather than to what I could have so easily created. But I didn't know that. The worse the market got, the worse I felt. And the worse I felt, the worse my business got. Instead of writing a new script and finding the happy feeling place of the way I wanted it to be, my fear was pulling in more fear. Trouble was glaring me in the face in major proportions. I had spent all my funds on the new enterprise, the market was in the pits, there were no new loans coming in, I still had debts to pay from launching the new corporation, and need I say more? The conditions I was focusing on were a long way from my liking, and the growing fear behind that focus was making matters meaner than all get out. I borrowed money to live on. I flew into every kind of frantic action I could think of, hired a salesperson who was into more lack than I was, naturally. That was all I could attract, sent flyers farther out into neighboring towns, and generally thrashed about anxiously for new business. It didn't come. I had plunged headlong into creation by negative focus, centering 100% of my attention on everything I did not want. I had so entrenched those don't wants into my vibrations and made them such a dominant part of me, I was pulling in more and more nasty stuff by the truckload. It was not a good time. Thinking I still had the secret, I tried to start buzzing again. Good luck. With such impassioned negative focus on all the gloomy stuff around me, I couldn't have turned on if my life depended on it, which at that point, it damn near did. My poor expanded self was probably saying, forget it, while taking off for an extended vacation in another universe until I came to my senses. Negative was my dominant vibration, and negative was all I was getting. In spades. It was somewhere right around that emotional low when a bunch of my all too enthusiastic friends began insisting I look into this material they had gotten hold of about the law of attraction. I was so down in the dumps, I really didn't care if they had discovered a shipload of authentic Aladdin's lamps, but to get them off my back so I could be alone in my misery, I gave in. 5 minutes is all it took for me to see why they were so excited. At last, here was the rest of the story, all the pieces that for so many years I never even knew were missing. I couldn't have been more elated if someone had given me $50 million. Within one day I designed, and dove into, my 30-day program described in the last chapter. No, things didn't turn around overnight. I was too addicted to looking at all the uglies. The financial turnaround was slow but absolutely steady, and a torrent of ideas was beginning to wash over me about fabulous ways to increase business with ease and fun. What excited me the most, though, was the leg up I knew I had in knowing about energy flow, or running my energy. I already knew how to turn on, how to manufacture the up feelings and hold them for quite a while. I even knew how to con myself into thinking I was feeling good until I truly did. What I most assuredly had not known was the single most important item in the law of attraction, which says, what you focus on, chum, is what you get. All I had to do was get my focus off the down market, off my lack of money in the bank, off the fact there were still no loans coming in, off my debts, take precise aim with my focusing, and sail away into the sunset. Oh, sure. It took more than a little while, but it finally worked. I became one of the few brokers locally who did not go out of business and continued to make good money in a rotten market. What a joy! And eventually, through persistent attention to my focus, I was able to turn my one-person business into a large and highly successful tri-state enterprise. Buzzing on command. The art of feeling good is not exactly something at which we are highly accomplished, so the goal is to learn how to do it on the spot. Sometimes that switching will take a little, or a lot of, prodding. Other times you'll find you can switch over in the blink of an eye. But no matter what it takes, the point is to do it, to switch from down to any notch up from there. How? Let's go back into our special bag of tricks. There are 3 basic ways to start feeling good, and we've already talked about 2 of them. One is to look for, or think about, anything that gives you pleasure. The second is to talk to yourself until you bring about a change of vibration. The third, which we'll explore now, is called buzzing, which gives you a right now change in vibration. Buzzing is one of the easiest and fastest ways to raise your vibrations. Naturally, different occasions call for different techniques. Sometimes one approach will do the trick, sometimes 2 or 3 methods are required to drag us out of our addiction to negative emotion. Buzzing is just one way, but it's a technique I've found to be such pure dynamite. I use it almost every day of my life, if only for a moment or two. One of the reasons learning to buzz is so easy is that there's a jump start you can use to get it going. What you're reaching for here is a feeling that emanates from the very depths of your being. Once that's activated, a sensation you can achieve in less than a second, your whole body has switched gears to vibrate on a much higher frequency. Your valve is wide open, the creative life force you were attached to by only a thread, just to keep you functioning, is now flooding through you. You are in absolute alignment with your inner being, expanded self, and you can feel the sensation right smack in the pit of your stomach. That's what makes buzzing so much fun. Through emotion, you're creating an undeniable physical sensation to use as an indicator of the vibrational change in your body. The whole process is nothing more than a quick 1-2, and bingo. You have turned on. Jump starting. Since we're sort of dead batteries until we get charged, I found the best way to get a buzz started was by doing something physical that would jumpstart me into a nice feeling. So, lacking cables, I used a smile. That's right, a meaningful little smile, the kind that feels like butter melting on a hot roll. The kind of smile you couldn't help but break into at the sight of newborn kittens tumbling all over each other, or a baby giggling just for the sake of giggling. Not a phony grin, but a loving, tender smile as if a youngster had just brought you their most cherished treasure. It's a smile on the outside, yes, but it originates from a rich, caring feeling on the inside. As you take that feeling and pull it up from the inside, you'll feel yourself smiling from the deepest point of your being. Now you're at what I call the gentle inner smile, a warm, lovely sensation that feels like a soft buzz or a delicate whirling. Maybe even a little tingling here or there. Now please, don't go looking for exploding missiles here. The feeling is going to be very, very subtle at first. You're not waiting for a tornado to slam you around, just a delicate, but noticeable, shift in your energy. That shift will always feel like it's coming from inside you, sometimes from behind your ears, sometimes from your heart, sometimes from your solar plexus, sometimes from the top of your head, sometimes from all over you. If you don't feel it right off the bat, stay loose and don't worry. Just state your desire to the universe, to feel the buzz, as a want or intent, and I promise it will come. So, in something like 1 or 2 seconds, you've gotten a buzz going with the gentle inner smile. Believe me, you'll know it when you have it, and radically changed your energy. It's an instant feel good, and an instant raise in frequency jump started with a warm smile on the outside to that smooth, gentle inner smile on the inside.